In his memoir, A Severe Mercy, Sheldon Vanauken tells the story of becoming friends with C.S. Lewis and then becoming a Christian. When that happens, Lewis writes him a letter to congratulate him. Then towards the end of the letter, he writes very matter-of-factly, "There will be a counterattack on you, you know. So don't be too alarmed when it comes. The enemy will not see you vanish into God's company without an effort to reclaim you." So if that's true, what might this effort involve?
In Luke 8, Jesus is about to perform an exorcism. The demons beg Jesus to allow them to go into some pigs instead, and Jesus gives them permission. Verse 33 says, "When the demons came out of the man, they went into the pigs, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and was drowned."
Although at first this may look like a random act of fear and insanity on the part of the demons, if you think about it, pigs would have been an important part of a village's agriculture and economy. If all of a sudden all of the pigs die, the demons know the villagers are going to be upset, not to mention freaked out, and they may try to get Jesus to go away and stop healing people in their village.
That's exactly what happened. Then all the people of the Gerasenes asked Jesus to leave them because they were overcome with fear. So he got into the boat and left. What all this means is that the enemy is very strategic in his counterattacks whenever Jesus and his church start taking ground. His goal is to keep as many people as possible in bondage, which brings up a question we want you to discuss. If you were a demon and your goal was to keep the people of your community in bondage, what would be your strategy?
In Mike McKinley's book, Did the Devil Make Me Do It?, he writes about the devil. He enslaves people in systems of deception and false belief that keep them from loving and knowing the one true God. And so, one of Satan's primary goals is to maximize suffering by convincing human beings to believe things that are not true.
When I first came to Axis, I was on a traveling speaking team with Evan. We were in Florida, and after a long day of speaking, we were finishing out our presentation, and Evan got up to speak and present the gospel.
And when I finished, it was like this thick cloud of just despair fell on me. I felt like I've just ruined everything. I've just defamed Axis. I've just distorted the gospel. I've just corrupted their vision of who God is. I've just made a mess of all of this.
But what I heard was one of the clearest presentations of the gospel that our team had ever given.
It didn't become clear to me until later that this was probably an instance of spiritual warfare, and that the enemy was trying to deceive me about what I had done.
One of the other ways he might work toward this goal is by lying to us about what God is actually like. He might try to portray God as evil or indifferent toward us, or just flat out incompetent.
Hey, oh, new assistant alert. That was the alert. Hi, I'm God.
I'm Rosie.
All right, follow me. I hope you're ready to hit the ground running because we've got a real challenge ahead of us. I was able to crack the box, but this bag ain't going down without a fight. Can you, Whoa, muscle fingers. Oh, yeah. I guess that's everything.
The attack might also involve discrediting God's promises, like his promise that in eternity there will be no more pain of any kind.
We're just going through the same routine century in and century out. Praise and worship, praise and worship. It's just so unfulfilling.
Nowhere in the Bible does it say that eternity will be like that. But the enemy's desire is always for us to see Christianity as a loss of freedom. Yet freedom is exactly what Christianity claims to offer. As it says in Galatians 5:1, it is for freedom that Christ has set us free. And the enemy knows that this is God's goal, but he wants to convince us that God is a liar. Like an artist working with clay or oil paints, Satan works with lies.
The documentary Fire follows Billy McFarland's plot to host a luxury music festival in the Bahamas. He persuades hundreds of people to pay thousands of dollars to be a part of it, but almost everything he says about it is a lie.
Each influencer, and there were about 250 influencers, were promised for one post, a 1-bedroom, 3-person villa on the beach. That didn't exist.
They had rented an area north of Sandals Resort and then effectively photoshopped out the bottom portion of the map to make it look like they were on a deserted island. I thought, the world's got to know what's going on. So I create the now infamous Twitter account, Fire Fraud. I thought, okay, I'm gonna put this out there and people are gonna see this and everyone's gonna know it's bogus. And nothing happened. I got maybe 2 or 3 clicks on Twitter and that was it. So I said, all right, well, we gotta hit them a little harder. What we ended up doing was taking a plane down there and photographing the development and what they were working on. One of the things that really struck out to me was that they were erecting these dome tents that were pitched as luxury villas that I realized were leftover hurricane tents from Hurricane Matthew. That is a far stretch from a luxury villa on a deserted island.
These details are conveniently left out when Billy is deciding what marketers should advertise. So everyone arrives thinking they're about to have the best weekend of their lives, only to find out that they've been utterly deceived.
Turn around. Turn this bus right around.
We see this sea of white little tents.
There was a disbelief on the bus. A lot of people thought that, maybe we're passing through this area. Our villas are just on the other side.
And it was the bus driver who said, oh no, that's where you're staying.
Of course, they wouldn't have shown up in the first place if they hadn't been deceived about what they were getting. As Priscilla Shirer wrote in The Armor of God, this is exactly the way the enemy works with us. The fact is, you've never met a magician as astounding at his craft as the devil is at his. Houdini has nothing on him. Satan is the master illusionist. He pulls the wool over our eyes, causing us to think happiness exists where it doesn't, that security is offered where it isn't. He makes evil appealing and righteousness boring, then entices us down a dark path that leaves us addicted, joyless, and empty.
Matthew 4:3 refers to the devil as the tempter. Of course, not all temptation directly involves the devil, and he does other things than just tempt us. But he does tempt us. And when he does so, he and his team always present sin as freedom. After God told Adam and Eve not to eat the forbidden fruit, the serpent tempted them by saying, God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. The assumption is that God is keeping them from something good, and his definitions of good and evil are deceptive.
I'm not an evil person, Father.
I'm glad to hear it. Neither am I. Neither are your aunts.
But the devil,
The Dark Lord. Yes.
he is the embodiment of evil.
Incorrect. He's the embodiment of free will. Good, evil, those words matter to the false god, but the Dark Lord is beyond such precepts.
Now, of course, sin always feels satisfying in the moment. Otherwise, doing it wouldn't be a temptation. But temptation always involves deception. The enemy frames his temptation so that we have tunnel vision, and we only focus on part of reality, not the whole picture. If he had told Adam and Eve the consequences that would actually follow from eating the forbidden fruit, that they would be kicked out of the garden, that their relationship with God would be strained, that they were surrendering their authority to rule over to someone who hated them, there's no way they would have done it.
A logical question at this point might be, okay, so then why does God allow all this temptation to happen in the first place?
Demons are bound by the rules of God. They have to operate within those rules. Their normal activity is temptation. They're allowed to do that to us our entire lives. That's what they're allowed to do. God has them all on a leash, and he lets the leash go enough to let them tempt us, because that's what makes us spiritually stronger. It's through being challenged and struggling that we gain spiritual strength. If we were just laying and getting grapes fed to us and there was never a challenge, do you ever get strong? No, you're actually weakened by that. It's adversary in life that makes us stronger. So the demon serves in spite of himself when it comes to temptation.
The devil and his team operate within a limited scope. It's like they just want to get some hits in, but they can't tell that God actually uses their hits to heal us. God takes their limited design and works it into his larger design, which is to strengthen us.
But even with all of that, we're still only scratching the surface when it comes to spiritual warfare. In our next section, we'll take a deeper look at the divine council and the extent to which their decisions can affect us.